I'm Colby Spencer, and this is Vantropolis. This is Vantropolis, a podcast about the happenings, the goings-on, and the general day-to-day life and antics of the underslept masses working in Vancouver's film industry. I'm no expert. I'm just nosy. And if you are too, let's do this. All right, full disclosure. My first guest is my husband. But he's also worked in Vancouver's film industry for almost 20 years. He started as a production assistant in locations, he moved into the lighting department for well over 15 years, and most recently, he's made a foray into the art department. He's humble and assuming, he's patient and kind, he's the nice guy on set. I know this sounds like a Hallmark card, but it is true. And he's also a wealth of information when it comes to Vancouver's film industry. I'm telling you these things because he would never tell you himself. I've hounded him for years about life on set, so he seemed to be the natural guinea pig for my first episode. I feel like we covered a lot of ground. Everything from film process and protocol to on-set mishaps, and yes, some celebrity stories. Come on, you guys, it's me. Enjoy. So welcome, Tony.
Thank you very much for having me.
We are coming to you live from the Vancouver Public Library, and we had a few technical difficulties, but we're still married. So far, so good. So yeah, I mean, we're going to kind of feel our way through this first episode. It's brand new for both of us, and I'm really excited to have you here. I feel like we'll have really good conversation about film. It's called Vantropolis, and our good friend Jay Rathor, who you used to be roomies with many years ago, kind of opened me up to the title of it, and I really did love the title Vantropolis. But I did struggle a bit with worrying that it would fit with the topic and film that we're talking about. But you kind of had a couple good kind of comments or thoughts about the name of it that I really liked. Do you want to share that with the folks at home?
Sure, I'd love to. I work on a lot of DC comic book shows, which are actually very big in this city. They film like The Flash here and Supergirl and Legends of Tomorrow and Arrow. So those are all DC comic book based movies, which the Superman comic books, obviously the city is named Metropolis and everything is to do with Metropolis. So I just thought it was kind of neat that a lot of the industry here is based on DC comic books, and then you ended up calling it Vantropolis, which is pretty good. And I think the second thing that I like is that people in Vancouver, at least a certain subset of people, are always talking about how Vancouver is such a major world-class city and it's such a big city, right? So basically it is a metropolis in their minds. So, yeah.
I love, too, how you said Vancouver never gets to play itself. It's always somewhere else, like Seattle or some Midwestern state. So if Vancouver was allowed to be a city, it would still be a fake city called Vantropolis.
Oh, I do like that. I like that a lot.
So we've been married like 6 years this year and together for 10. And when I met you, online I should add, folks out there, don't give up hope. Online dating is still a thing and it can be successful. You were working on a Disney dog movie. And so that was my first foray into dating someone in film because you were never available. We could only go out on Saturday afternoons because you had to sleep most of the afternoon away because you worked all of Friday night. And little did I know that this was not going to be an abnormal thing. It would be a routine for years to come.
Yes. Welcome to the world of film. And yes, the hours are pretty crazy, but I always have a lot of fun when I go there, so that's always my trade-off. I had a lot of jobs before film that weren't very much fun, but I was home at 5:15 every day.
Absolutely, and people always say that the film hours are insane, especially our mothers, worrying about lack of sleep and heart attacks, potential for heart attacks. But I always personally really loved that you worked in film. I thought it was super cool, and I know that's glamorizing it a bit, but I really was truly very interested in film, and I think that kind of spurred the topic for my podcast was the interest in film. And I feel like if I feel that way, still after 10 years of being with you, many other people are obviously wanting to have the same sort of questions answered. I still stalk you from your call sheets, you coming home asking you about scenes and who you worked with and which show. So I'm excited to kind of dive into some of that today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So why don't we start with how you got into film? Like start from the beginning, because a lot of people ask that. You're a veteran now, I would say, in lighting, although I know you're humble and you would never call yourself a veteran, but you are quite fucking old now. So I feel like you've been doing it a while. So let's go back to kind of how you started, because it wasn't a straight line. And for a lot of people in film, I think they expect that it might be a straight line. And it's absolutely not that way for many people. So why don't you give everyone a little rundown on how you kind of started? Because I think it's a pretty cool story.
Okay. Yes. I like how it's not really a straight line. That's a good thing. There tends to be two kinds of people in film, those that had a straight line and those that didn't. And it seems like those that had a straight line probably had a parent or a relative or someone close to them that was already in film. And they probably went to film school, whether that was just like a 1-year sort of school or to go and actually get their full film degree. And then those people tend to go more in a straight line. They know where they're going to start, where they're going to enter, and they know what their trajectory is going to be, or at least they hope they know. And lots of people in film are like that. But the majority of people, I think, are more like me, who just ended up working in film, or maybe later in life developed a love for film, which I did when I was younger. Everything was about music, and then somewhere along the way, I wanted to start just telling stories or just appreciating stories that were on film instead of just music.
So did you go to film school?
I went to sort of a film school. I went to one of those 1-year intensive film school experiences. Which
is now out of business in Victoria, British Columbia?
Yes, it is now out of business.
It's like
I guarantee it has no reason to how they ran the school.
Well, you did okay.
Yeah.
So you're out of school. You're how old?
45.
No. When you were out of school.
Oh, when I was done school.
Sorry, done school. Yes, when you were done film school in Victoria. What did you do? You came out of the doors. You had your little diploma.
Yes.
All hopeful and innocent. Well slept. No black clothes. What did you do next?
No black clothes. All my clothes are black.
I thought only people in film wore black, but I guess maybe it was a Victoria art thing too.
Yes.
So what did you do next? You needed to work. What was the kind of journey after that?
Well, I moved to Vancouver almost right away. I finished my film school program in February of 2000 and moved to Vancouver, I think, in March or April of 2000, like a month or a month and a half later.
And you reached out with a resume? How did you get work?
Yes. I remember one of the last things we did in film school was learn how to do a film resume, which was really good, actually. It was really helpful because I remember the first PA job that I got, the woman told me that the reason she hired me was that my resume was really good. So that worked.
And PA is production assistant for those of you not in the know. We'll have to limit the jargon, Tony Durke.
Yes, okay. It's the level entryest job of the level entryest job on set.
You're exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Right down at the bottom. You're literally sweeping cigarette butts.
Yes, you wear a vest all day. It's not because it's not for safety. It's so the rest of the crew can know that they can treat you like shit and have no repercussions.
I'm laughing, but it's true. And you actually have to deal with all the crazies walking into set, trying to steal shit.
Yeah.
Asking you for the 100th time, who's in this show and are they famous?
Yeah.
Getting yelled verbal assaults on Friday nights downtown.
down on the downtown east side because they ran into where your set is to like shoot up or something, and now you've screwed up their night by having a movie shoot there.
And the thing is, like, we joke, but it's really helpful to also be a production assistant. I know a lot of people think they're below it, and especially given how busy it is in Vancouver, you want to just start mid-level and roll right in and have like a, great job on set, but production assistant, I would say, correct me if I'm wrong, that's like such a good way to get a sense of the cadence and the rhythm and the routine and ritual of a film set.
Absolutely. For sure it is. And you'll have hours and hours where you're not doing anything some days. So just really just sit there and learn. It's like paid film school. And you're also at the bottom of the production scale end of things. So you're going to learn about all those things about, what a one-liner is and what a call sheet is and all these things that, like, quite frankly, a lot of the technician side of people know nothing about, even though they've been doing it for years and years.
That's crazy. But that's good. That's good advice.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're a PA. You were a PA for how many years?
Oh, about probably 3 or 4 years.
Okay. And then you moved into locations?
Well, that is locations.
Oh, okay.
Like a locations.
But you moved
PA.
up then. You moved up.
Well, a little bit. Just for a while, I started doing some assistant location managing on commercials here in town. And that's when I really realized I didn't want to. It was good to move up a bit and just realize that wasn't going to make me happy. I really needed to be more creative. Like, I needed to be a technician. I didn't want to be management, so to speak.
Okay. So then what happened?
Well, then I started lighting, started working as a lamp operator.
And what's a lamp operator?
Well, that's someone who is basically, the person who just runs around set and moving lights around set under the direction of, the head of the lighting department.
Okay, cool. And how many, on a regular mid-sized TV show, how many people would be in your lighting department?
Like 10.
Okay.
10 people.
So you've kind of stayed in lighting since. Like when I met you, you were in lighting. You're still in lighting. You were kind of doing indies. And for anyone that doesn't know what that is, how can we describe an indie versus like a union show?
Oh, well, an indie is just short for independent, meaning independent of unions. But there are 3 main unions operating in all film sets in pretty much all North America, which is IATSE, which is short for International Association of Theatrical and Stage Employees. Or something. Anyway, it's an international union, and it covers all the North American workers. And then, of course, all the drivers are Teamsters. And then there's the ACTRA and UBCP, which is part of SAG, which is the Screen Actors Guild, which covers all the actors. And so then there's this whole other form of production that happens here in Vancouver that's all non-union. So you get paid less and you don't get medical benefits and stuff like that, but you also don't have experience, and it's a good place to start cutting your teeth, so to speak.
Yeah, and I mean, when I met you, you were basically just doing non-union shows.
Yeah.
And then sort of took a leap, and maybe midway through us being together. And I would say it was a financial hit for sure, because you were getting steady indie work. And in order to say yes to bigger shows that might only have you on for a day or 2 days a week, you had to kind of turn down that meal ticket of full-time indie work. But you sort of needed to leap to the next thing, the next level of your film career.
Yeah, that's right. And that can be a big jump. It can also be daunting too for someone that has spent years on indies, and then just for some reason when you show up at a union show, everything's bigger. Like, it's just the trucks are bigger. There's more of them. There's more actors. There's more extras in the background. There's more it's just bigger, and it can be kind of intimidating. And also the people that have worked there for years in the union, they can intimidate you as well when they can see that you're just fresh-faced and, you're a brand new member to the union. Then, you're not going to really get the same respect as a longtime member. You have to earn it, I think.
Yeah, and I would say since then you've kind of been in full-time union world, moving through the television series that grace Vancouver.
Yeah.
All the superhero shows. I feel like you've worked on all the supers.
Yeah, all the supers. Supernatural, Supergirl.
Super Dogs.
Super Dogs.
What was the Disney one called with the dogs when I met you?
Oh, Space Buddies. They're all buddies movies. Space Buddies, Snow Buddies.
Right. You worked on a lot of buddies.
Yeah, a lot of buddies.
And then the supers. But you still love it, right? I mean, you have been in television world now for many years. Mm-hmm. You know, all the big series we just mentioned. You've also done some feature film stuff before and now.
Yes.
A couple forays into that. Mm-hmm. And then you've also kind of recently switched over to the art department as a new passion and sort of wet your feet in that a little bit.
Absolutely, yeah.
Not as much day to day, but...
No, but I mean, I do, you know, I'm also a visual artist and I'm a very visual person. So I just feel like probably art department is probably it feels like the natural fit for me. And so right now I'm just kind of in the position of like knowing a job really well and being quite good at it. So then at that point, of course, when you reach that point in a job, your stress level's a lot lower because you know what you're doing versus the one that you're just entering into. And you've probably entered a couple of rungs higher up the ladder than you should be because you already have film experience. So for some people, people trust you a little more and you just, yeah, it's higher, you know, it's higher stress. So that's the tough part about making it any transition.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, we're married and we have a small child, you know, who's going to be 5 in a few days. And watching you sort of leap over to that art department branch has sort of been like back to the indie world a bit because you've had to, even at your level of lighting, to start in another department and take on another department, you've kind of had to go back to that rogue indie world, that scrappy sort of hustle again. So how does that feel?
Well, it feels good and bad. Like, I mean, it feels bad because it doesn't feel like security in any way. But I mean, in like creatively speaking, it's just pure magic. And that in itself is almost like it's worth money to me because, you know, when you enter the indie world and it's a lot smaller scale, then you can have creative control over all the details you want to, really. You can put in the colors you want, the textures you want, all those things. So I mean, as a creative person, that's just, it's really, yeah, like I said, it's magical.
Yeah, so like on a series, you might have a 40-person art department, and when you were working on some of these indies, you were the production designer, the top of the heap, and you had like one helper.
Exactly.
And maybe me looking on Craigslist for some friggin' bassinet that you needed to destroy and paint and fatigue and use the next morning, no stress.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, I mean, that's obviously quite stressful, but, you know, it's good stress too, you know. It's a lot different than having the stress of just, you know, showing up at a job every day that you're not fully behind, you know. Actually, I was just listening to a podcast this morning, and somebody made a point that in the United States, anyway, 24% of people literally despise their jobs. Like they hate their jobs, and it actually causes them like physical and mental distress. 24% of people. And then something like 57% or something generally don't like their jobs. So it literally came down to something like 14% of people go to work every day and are happy with their jobs. Now that is incredible.
I hate those people and they're liars. But I would say you're probably in that. I mean, you have stressful days,
mostly.
But you're pretty passionate about film, and you love reading about film. You listen to other film podcasts, far more successful than this one currently. You love watching film and dissecting film, and it's definitely been contagious. You and I mean, I love learning about film from you and mining you for information. And, you know, I mine you for a lot of information, probably more than you'd like to give.
Oh, no. I'm here for you.
You know, asking you, like, who's on set today and what time? And, I mean, looking at a call sheet, you know, you and I joke that the film industry is run so tightly. And I know, you know, people listening that work in film are like, yeah, right, it's a gong show. But when you look at a call sheet, and for those of you that have not seen a call sheet, it is like ridiculously detailed down to where the nearest hospital is, what time sunrise is, what time sunset is, you know, when lunch is, what every single person is doing, what time they're showing up, what scene you're doing.
Yes.
What background you need for that, what props you need for that, what stunts you will need. It's insane. And then a map of how to get there, where to park. I'm obsessed with call sheets. I don't even know why. After all these years, I still...
Because you're an organized person, and that sheet is just pure organization.
It is.
That's what it
and I
is.
don't know if it runs that way once you get that pretty piece of paper and start living it on set. I'm sure.
Well, it depends who your production team is. Most of the time, yes, you will run it,
Well, I joked
exactly
that
how it is.
a film set to me is like a cordial military zone. Everyone's friendly, but like do not fuck around. Don't touch people's stuff that is not in your department. Stay in your lane. Keep your head down and do shit fast.
Yeah.
And like, you know what I mean? It's like a cordial military zone.
Exactly. And I have 2 stories to back that up. First story, I was a PA on a television show at Disney called So Weird in 2000 when it was my first show I ever worked on. And something was in the shot and my ALM just said, just run over and move that out of the shot. Well, it turns out it was the grip stuff and I didn't ask a grip. I was new. I just thought I was doing everyone a big favor. And so I moved the stuff and then, I just got totally yelled at by the key grip. And he didn't even bother to call me by my name. He just called me fucking locations, which is pretty common back in that day. Now, not as much. I don't feel like people would really get away with that as much anymore. And the second story is when I was in ALM on a big military commercial shooting out in the Delta, and a guy who had been in many tours in Afghanistan turned to me and said, after a day of shooting on this commercial, said, if the military was half as organized as you guys, I don't know how many wars we would win. Or something like that. I'm paraphrasing, but he did say that.
Like you ran a tighter ship than the military.
Yes, yeah, it's
well, I
true.
mean, watch a film set roll in and watch them leave. It's like they're ninjas. You don't even know they were there. There's not a stone on the sidewalk out of place. And when you do see, a location's arrow on the ground or some leftover evidence of their presence, it's like, somebody's in trouble. Like that is rare because it is so tightly run. It's impressive to me. I love being near a film set. I'm like a total, looky-loo. I'm like watching everything that's happening. I'm the person that pretends, I'm just going for a walk, but really I'm just skulking around the set and trying to soak up all the information.
That time Godzilla was shooting outside our apartment, you were just in heaven.
Yeah, it was a bit of a
They were out
nutcase.
there for 3 days. They had the road blocked off.
Yeah.
They had police cars and buses on fire. You were just like,
Yeah.
that was heaven for you. All the other neighbors were bitching and whining, and you were just like in heaven.
Well, and I remember going to sleep and the glow of like the lighting, the lifts with these massive spotlights literally shining through our evening blinds trying to sleep at 2 a.m.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't even care. I was like, this is so fucking cool. I'm like so excited. I love it. I love being around it. It's a good energy. And I think a lot of people feel that way. It's a bit of magic. It's magic on the streets,
Yeah, you don't want to lose sight of that. I really try not to. And it's easy to. And I see it does happen to people. I see people that have lost the magic and are just miserable, right? Because it's easy for that to happen. You can get burnt out. You don't take enough time off. It's the middle of the winter. It rains every day. And,
Yeah.
it can be an uphill battle for sure in the winter. I mean,
Well, and all that rain. Like, I always remember the story you told me of when people were up from LA many years ago, shooting something and they wanted to know like the rain contingency plan, like what happens if it starts pouring? Because I guess in LA that's a big deal and you like shut it down, you move stuff undercover.
that's right.
And everybody just looked at them like, we don't have a rain contingency.
No, you just keep shooting.
We just keep shooting.
They call it rain cover in LA. So they always have like an alternate location. And apparently, I mean, I don't know because I've never worked there and I'm sure lots of it's hearsay. But I mean, from what I understand, I hear that they're just like, the rain's coming and they actually like try and pack everything up before it starts. So you can only imagine here, it's like sideways wind and rain. And they're just like, let's roll. Honestly. And I think a lot of them, if they're new to coming up here, they just can't see how that actually works. But
Yeah.
it does.
Have you been shocked a lot in the rain with lighting?
No.
No electrocutions, mild electrocutions?
Oh, mild, sure. But
You're rolling your
No.
eyes, but that sounds terrifying. Like
Well-
you're touching a hot light in the pissing rain here and you're like getting a jolt.
yeah, but it's quite rare. It's quite rare.
So what's the difference kind of, between like, we've kind of gone all over the place, but films versus commercials versus TV series? You've worked on all three. And, I think it's a very interesting difference of the way it's run. So why don't you do a little quick run through of that?
Okay. Well, I've spent most of my time overwhelmingly on episodic television. For some reason, I don't really know why that is. I guess even in my locations days, it was all episodic TV almost, and then now it's always been episodic TV for years and years and years. And I think when you compare that to a movie, I mean, definitely one thing that stands out right away is just the sheer amount of volume that a TV show shoots per day compared to a movie. I mean, a feature film generally shoots, 1 to 3 pages a day, and television series will shoot 8 to 12 pages of material a day. And that's just every single day, grinding
Pages
that out.
of the script.
Yes, that's pages of the script.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know you did a little stint on Alpha, that dog movie.
Right.
And you showed up on set. That was like a couple of years ago. And I remember you showed up on set and I said, "What did you do today?" And you're like, "I literally stood by a green screen and some stairs that went up. And a guy just like called to a dog pretty much all day."
Yeah, it was crazy.
You were like, "What else are we doing?" And they're like, "Nothing."
And the funny thing is like you get paid the most on those on feature films. It's like tier 1 movie pay, and you get paid the most. I mean, I guess because the budget's bigger, but it's just funny because literally it's the opposite. Like you actually have less people to do the job on a TV show, and you have way more to do. And you make less money. It's like a triple whammy. And then you go on a feature and you make more money to do less.
Well, and I would say it's kind of, it's almost two different kinds of people, because it doesn't seem that people hop around from features to TV that I've seen between you and all of your friends.
Yeah, pretty much.
And maybe it's because TV is like, as a family man now, you get a guaranteed income for 10 months. You get a 2-month hiatus to kind of rest or travel. And with a film, every few months, you're trying to find your new piece of work.
Yeah.
Right? And then there's commercials where you're literally trying to find something every few days.
Exactly.
Because you're shooting. And the good thing about that is if you hate it, if it's a horrible group of people or it's stressful or it's, the location is challenging, in a few days it's over. It's rear view, you get your paycheck, you move on.
Yeah.
But a TV show, you better like it. And you better like the people and you better like the way it's run, because it's 10 months every single day.
Yeah, exactly. And those things can all have an effect. Even if you're working with your regular crew that you always work with for years, if you're working on a show that has a bad production team, it's a bad show. It doesn't matter if you get along with your people or not, because what will happen is you'll get curveballs thrown at you all the time, and it will just make your job horrible. Something as simple as like an assistant director saying, "Oh, we're not going to shoot in that scene now. We're going to go and shoot over in so-and-so's apartment set." Well, if you haven't pre-planned that days before, like you can't do stuff like that. But I have worked on shows where they do stuff like that, and it's awful. It creates a lot of extra unneeded stress.
And I know you guys, everybody talks in this town. It's not a very big city. As busy as it is for shows, everybody talks about how bad or good certain productions are run.
Yeah, exactly. Some are famous for being badly run, and some are famous for being really well run.
And some people stay through the whole. I mean, we just went to the Supernatural 300th episode party.
Wow, nice name drop.
Well, people are here. I'm going to get some Supernatural fans now. Hashtag Supernatural. Hashtag CW.
SPN family.
You know what? If I get like 4 people from Europe because of that, I'll take it.
Cool. I hear they're big in Australia too.
But we went to that, and the reason I bring it up, not just to name drop Tony Durke, but some people were at that party and they'd been at episode 1, season 1, and they had stayed and are still on that show today, 14 years later. That's insane.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And they are like family, you know? Like that's a crazy run for a show.
Well, they are. If you think about it, when that show started in 2005, like there wasn't even smartphones for another 2 years after that. Like when people started on that show, they had flip phones.
Well, the leads
now
didn't even have
iPhone 10s. Like I know that's just a phone, but like when you look at it, like that's pretty crazy, right? Like
and you watch the actors grow as well. They get married, they have kids. Like everybody evolves, including all your coworkers.
Yeah, people have passed away on the show, like
that's
employees
dark.
And stuff.
I wasn't expecting it to go there.
Okay, like whatever. It's a show about demons.
True. Yeah, it's true. No, there's births and deaths.
Yeah.
Okay.
Including Flynn. He was born,
Our little guy,
Yeah, he was born while I worked on that show.
And that kind of brings me to sort of the balance of working in film, because being married to someone in film, while kind of interesting and exciting, you get to go to rap parties, you get to live in a sort of little bubble in a world that maybe everybody else isn't privy to. One of my girlfriends and I, who I introduced her to someone in film, sorry, you know who you are, we joke about being film widows, because There's so much time that your significant other or partner is away, from the cast all the way down to the last person on the crew, of just hours and hours away working in television and film.
Yes. And if you're the wife of a generator operator or a Genny-op,
we're going to start a support group.
probably
You
don't
ladies
even know.
and men, give us a call. If you're married to a Genny-op and you need support, I'm here for you. We'll do an episode about that.
yeah.
How they make it through. But I think it's probably the lovely trips that they get to go to with those paychecks.
That's what I think too. Yes.
But yeah, I mean, when we had our little guy and he never slept, and I mean, you would leave for work, you would go out the door, and you were not going to be back for 14 to 15 hours. And I would literally burst into tears.
Yeah.
Because I was like, how am I going to, and I had friends that said, I had to wait till 5 o'clock and whoever got home. And I'm just like, you don't even know. You don't even know. It's like pitch black when you leave. It's pitch black when you get home. And then it's 4 more days in a row and then the weekend. So it's a trial. It's a hard go. And you can't have, from what we've seen, it's hard to have 2 people working in film as a couple. And if you have children, it's next to impossible. It takes a village for sure. So let's talk about some of the shows you've worked on, because I know everybody's curious. I feel like you've worked on a multitude of shows going way back. Mm-hmm. Some of the OBGs.
As I said when I mentioned earlier, So Weird was the first show. And here's another thing to point out. That show, when I was working on in 2000, was shot on Super 16 film.
Which show?
So Weird.
Oh, So Weird, right.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying it was So Weird.
No, that was the first show I worked on, and it was shot on Super 16 film. So...
And you worked on a couple other big shows back then. You worked on The Dead Zone.
Yeah.
What was that like? That was a big show for the city.
Was it? Was it a pretty... Yeah, I guess it was.
I feel like it was. It was like, everybody remembers The Dead Zone.
Okay, good. I certainly do, because I spent season 3 and 4 on there, I think. Yeah, 3 and 4, the whole seasons.
And you worked on a couple others.
As a PA?
Well, just anything. Pre the big ones.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of the early days.
Yes.
Where we didn't have these massive network productions like we do now.
Yeah, that's right.
It was still a bit more innocent, I would say.
It was more innocent back then, and it was a bit more rogue, I think, for sure. And you know what else? It was a lot more unhealthy in those days. More people smoked, more people drank, more people did drugs. The food was not as good as it is now. I mean, those are some really key things that have changed. I mean, when people used to be, when I first started, lots of times when it was the end of the week, or say it was the end of an episode or something, the director or the producers or whatever would spoil the crew by rolling in a garbage cans full of ice and beer. Like, you would just never see that now. And it's,
No.
and we're
Now
only
it's
talking
kombucha.
16, 17 years ago. Well, exactly. You would see kombucha, or like, somebody's organic gelato or something. You know what I mean? It would be something like that. It wouldn't be booze, which is probably a good thing. Let's be honest.
Well, you know what? And like the military, I would say food is very important on set. It's like when you see these, Mighty Machine shows that our kid watches, and it's about submarines and, these massive naval ships. Food time is so important for your morale and your motivation, and to keep you kind of happy and upbeat. And I would say it's probably the same for film. Everybody talks about if craft services is garbage, or if the catering food, they're just phoning it in. Or if you get rewarded like I was joking, you get rewarded on a Friday with a food truck. Like, that's a big deal.
It is a big deal, absolutely. And I've been on shows, who shall remain nameless, that have gone through like 5 catering companies in one season, and they fire like 4 out of the 5. And that's just because they get complaints from the crew. If the crew's not... Like, if we can't eat good food, then what do we have,
And on the flip side of that, my brother works in craft services, and hopefully he'll eventually come on the show as well. Sometimes the budgets are garbage, and he's like, I can't feed people well with this money. And you're scrimping, but you're going to hear about it. I can do it. I'll get by on crap stuff from Costco, but you're going to hear about it in a couple weeks. Everyone's going to be fed up with all this carby crap. So it's kind of both ways. If a production is stingy...
Well, it's true. I mean, as an example, when you want to watch people, watch what can happen. Just a few weeks ago, it was a late Friday night shift, and we worked till about 2:00 in the morning. It was raining. It was gross. And then, so what they have is, these craft service. They bring out something that's called a hot snack, and everybody that works in film, I can hear your collective chuckle right now, but. They bring out this thing called the hot snack, and it's about 3 hours after you come back from lunch, and hopefully around 3 hours before you wrap for the night. Well, what happened is these craft service people don't really care. It's pretty obvious. They brought out a
These
hot
ones
snack.
specifically,
on this particular show, not all craft service people. Yeah, on this particular show, they brought out a really terrible hot snack, so nobody ate it. But over and above that, what a bunch of the crew members went and got, like fast food. Like our whole team went and got like veggie burgers and whatever from A&W, and then the Grips went and got a bunch of stuff from McDonald's. So instead of and not only did they not eat the craft service food, they took all their wrappers from the fast food and threw it all into the uneaten craft service food.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Anarchy.
Yeah.
I kind of love it, though, because that's how you keep people in line.
They voiced their discomplaint. So actually on the Monday after that weekend, the craft service was incredible. Like they ordered in a special Indian food from this lovely Indian restaurant and stuff. So, I mean, they got the message for sure.
I love that.
Yeah. I guess.
Storming the crafty trailer with fast food
Big Mac
wrappers. But vegan burgers, because it is Vancouver.
Yeah, the veggie burgers from A&W.
So Vancouver. That is a delicious burger, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm glad they've done that.
And they're not paying us to say that.
No, they're not.
Beyond Meat.
But if they want to, I don't have any sponsors. I will gladly take them. So let's talk about a couple crazy stories because, part of why I wanted to do this was informational. People that don't know about film. We're going to have many different guests on from all different departments and walks of life in film. But I also want to know the kind of glory stories. I like the crazy shit that goes on. I remember them. And when we're at parties, I tell them and Tony cringes, because he's just like, shut up, Colby. Like, don't tell people this stuff. But they love it. They eat it up. There's a reason I tell them because it's awesome and fun. And you don't know this stuff if you're not on set. You don't hear about it. And it's funny because when we walked into the Vancouver Public Library, it's a beautiful building. If you're not familiar with it in Vancouver, it kind of looks like the Roman Colosseum, but less battered. And Tony and I were walking through the entrance to come and do this podcast because they have beautiful sound booths here that are free with your library card. Unbelievable. And I said to him, do you remember when you shot the Supergirl episode here and this library flooded? And he was like, oh my God, yes. And I remember that like it was yesterday, and it was probably 2 years ago.
Yeah, or more. Oh, no, actually it was just a little over 2 years ago because it was just pre-Christmas break.
So tell us what happened, because I'm sure everybody's dying to know like I was.
Well, I mean, without getting into specifics about
don't call out anybody.
Yeah, no, I won't throw anyone under any buses or anything. But I mean, what happened was essentially, I think what happened was we were shooting in there all night, and just to point out, it was actually in the atrium of the library, not where the books are. The main.
Yeah, there's a beautiful 3-story atrium of glass.
I think it's 5. It's gorgeous. It's huge. Everything from the 6th Day with Arnold Schwarzenegger was shot in there. It's a very cool, futuristic sort of looking building. It's
always
great.
like a headquarters for tech companies.
FBI headquarters that's played and everything, right? So anyway, we were shooting in there, and somehow we shot all night and all the heat built up. And what happens is you shut off all the smoke detectors and fire detectors and all that because you know that it's going to get warm. There's also going to be atmospheric smoke. So you just turn that off, right? Standard practice. What happened was it heated up all night, and then somehow in the morning the system was reset, and it was still, the air was still hot. There was still smoke in the air and everything from shooting. So unfortunately, the alarm started going off, and the guy that was in charge of whatever the library, he was our liaison. He looked very stressed, and then suddenly all the sprinklers just let go. And I can tell you that I've never knew those sprinklers held so much water. The water, it was just shocking.
But reassuringly effective in a time of need.
For sure. I always just thought it was like a sprinkle, but it is like a shower from buckets. It is nuts. Yeah.
Biblical rain.
Yeah. Yeah.
But indoors.
Yeah. There's rivers of water flowing and
and it leaked down. I mean, it was on the news. And that's the funny thing about working with a husband in film is when he's on set and AWOL and I don't know what he's doing, I just go to Twitter and Instagram because you can read about what they're doing because people are walking by sets. They're taking photos. I've seen photos of you on Twitter working. Like you couldn't live a
that's
double
right.
life
Yeah, you
because I can literally see you working. I just like Google the name of the show or the movie and there's like onlookers taking pictures. And I remember you worked all night. It was an all night shoot. And I woke up, it was 7 a.m. And I remember I got my phone, just cruising through. And I saw that the Vancouver Public Library was flooding and it was cascading down into wasn't there a parkade and there was like going to be a book sale with some used books. They were all soaked. It was mayhem. It was all over the news.
Yeah,
and I was
unlucky about the used books that those all got ruined. But none of the books inside the library. Maybe they don't even let film crews in there. Like I hope they don't. I hope I'm okay to say that, but I hope they don't let them in here.
But it was insane. But I kind of love that stuff because it's nuts. You never know what's going to happen. For better or worse, crazy stuff can ensue. It's not
true.
your average job.
Yeah, it ended up being funny. Like, what happened is like it just kept coming, and the water kept coming. Then the water ended up being like a foot deep and stuff. And then it became this fun game of like running in the deluge and rescuing your gear. So like it was like the camera guy would come running with like batteries and he'd be like, yeah, I got the batteries. And then the rest of the crew would yell like, yay. And then they'd run out. And then the lighting guys would run in and try and rescue some of their lights that were literally like under waterfalls of water. And of course we shut down all the power and, so it was safe.
Yeah, that could have been terrifying.
But anyway, yeah, it was quite a night.
I love that story though. And I love that we're here at the library. It was very fitting for this podcast. Another crazy story that I love to bring up is the night you were shooting in a lift. So if you're in lighting, you can explain what a lift is.
Well, it's just one of those platform. It's called an aerial platform lift, and you've all seen one. They mostly construction uses them a lot, like painters when they have to get up like 10 stories high to paint the outside of a building, and it's just like a little bucket that can hold a couple of people that can go up, up to 135 feet.
Yeah, you make it sound so chill, and then you say up to 135 feet.
Yeah.
And then I always freak out when I know you're going to be in that thing overnight. I see a future as a widow with my child, and you died in a lift accident.
A real film widow, not just...
Yeah, not an anecdotal film widow.
Okay, well, they're pretty safe. Anyways, that's what a lighting lift is. So they put them up sometimes at either end of a set when you're outside. If you're in the forest or in the city, it doesn't matter. You use it as a light, like a backlight from...
So you were doing a night shoot. We don't have to say what show it is.
Yeah.
You were out in kind of near the U.S. border, right? It was like sort of, what do you want to say, like rural country roads.
Rural South Surrey.
And you were up in that lift for the
Yes.
whole night and shooting sort of like a vehicle coming down a road. And without saying the show, it was alien-esque.
Yeah.
I think the car was stopping. It was a TV series, and sort of like an alien abducts the vehicle or the people. Or
Yes,
whatever.
that's right. That's exactly the scene. An alien was abducting a woman out of right out of the sunroof of her car. That was the scene.
I'm psychotic. I remember these things. Sometimes more than you. You're like, what? Which show is that? So you're up in this lighting, this lift. It's the middle of the night. You're shooting this car over and over, coming around the corner, and there's going to be some special
stopping.
effects in post-production.
Absolutely,
Cut,
yeah.
start again. And then what happened?
And then I just looked up the road and saw some like headlights came down the road at like a very high rate of speed, and then they just locked up the brakes when they saw the set, but only for like a few seconds, and then they proceeded to hit the gas and go driving right towards the set. And all the crew was there shooting around the car and everything that they were shooting, and so they all I just saw at the last second, the car went right through set. A bunch of people literally leapt out of the way, like jumped for their lives kind of thing. And then the car came right down through set towards me because I was on the far side of set in the lift. And then I just heard someone on my radio, the gaffer, who's the head of the lighting, just say, "Whoever's in that west lift, you better get down and hold on." And I looked down and I just saw the car coming right towards it. And at that moment, I realized that we had camouflaged, the greens department had camouflaged the bottom of the lift with black tarps and camouflaged tarps. And then around that, they put trees. And this is so that they can shoot, like point the camera right at the lift and they won't see it, right? It's because it's in the shot. So that crossed my mind, and I just thought, like that doesn't help my cause at all.
And you can't get down quickly. You're 100 feet
Oh
up.
yeah, you're 120. Like it takes 5 minutes to come down, and this car's gonna be like at me in like 3 seconds. Anyway, so then the road gets to like a 90-degree turn and goes over some railroad tracks right at my lift. So I just think, this car's gonna slam right into the lift. And anyways, so he didn't hit the lift. He somehow went like a 4-wheel slide around that corner, and then we had police on set that night because a lot of times you will have police with you just, for situations like that, or managing crowds or just whatever. Like sometimes a permit demands that you have police, especially when you're downtown.
And the police love those shifts, for the record.
Yeah, they do. They get paid like double time on their day off.
Good food.
It's pretty sweet. Yeah.
A lot of standing around. I love police, but come on, guys. It's an easy job.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Anyways, also on this night, the police on set suddenly had a job to do. So I mean, the one officer came speeding down the road like right after him in just mere seconds, and then I just hear again my gaffer. He say, "Hey, point those lights at the fleeing car just to help the police." So I did. I had like huge 18,000-watt lights. So you just point those right over, and I'm just literally acting as a helicopter, essentially, just following this car as it's being pursued by the police. And they definitely got him. He ended up going off the road, and they're like high-speed chase through a farmer's field. I could see the whole thing. I'm just like highlighting it the whole way. And they got him eventually. And the story was, after they came back and everything, the guy had told them that he was so drunk, and he was coming down there to do who knows what. It's a dead-end road. He thought it was a roadblock. He thought the film shoot was a roadblock. And so he thought
That's
he would
sweet
just
justice, though.
try and run the roadblock down, I guess.
As you do.
As you do.
Yeah.
And then
what could go wrong?
Escape to the end of a dead-end road and then go running through a farmer's field and then into blackberry bushes. By the time the guy came out, apparently he was like almost skinless because he had been running through blackberry bushes for like a kilometer. As you do.
I love that, though.
Yeah.
I love it. I love everything about it. Justice was served. You were safe. What's to not like about that? And it's
legendary. It was legendary. And the first thing, and that also happened to me. That was my first day on that show, and it was the third day of shooting on the show, and then ended up on that series for every day after that till it wrapped. It was like my inaugural introduction to the show. And
I remember that show and many others. You end up working all night and sleeping all day, so you're totally turned around. People in film like to call them Fraturdays, right? Where you work a Friday, so it's a Friday so late that you're basically done on Saturday morning, and then you have to sleep all day on Saturday. So it essentially becomes almost a 6-day week before you've woken up and sort of, seen the world and try to get your life back for like 36 hours, really.
And then you're back on set on Monday morning. So that's why a lot of feature people hate TV shows, because they just hate that.
Just a grind.
That grind for months, right?
But then there's always like the famous feature films here, like The Revenant. Everyone jokes about The Revenant and how hard it was on people. They burned through crew for many different reasons, but just a grind, And everybody talks about it. I mean, I think you were considering working on it because it was kind of exciting, or at least I was excited, with Leonardo DiCaprio and
Inarritu at the helm.
And people were like, don't do it, buddy.
Yeah, don't do it. Every single story I heard was a horror story. Every single one. Except the one from Crafty who said that Leo loves eating grilled cheese and hot chocolate.
That's all he asked for. That's all he asked for.
Yeah.
He just wanted those. So she said, I made the best hot chocolate and the best grilled cheese sandwich in my life.
With ketchup. Apparently likes ketchup. But who doesn't like ketchup on grilled cheese?
And I would be carb loading on that movie. Like, you're in the backwoods of British Columbia. I heard they had grizzly alerts where they'd have to stop shooting. And he wanted to shoot a lot of natural light, which obviously in the winter you don't get a lot of that. So it was just dark days.
Yeah.
And I mean, the carbs would help. Let's be honest.
They would help, yes.
Hot chocolate and grilled cheese. I got to ask you about celebrities. I know you always roll your eyes about this.
I know, I do.
I love the celebrity stories. And we're obviously not going to, this is not a celebrity show, but I think we should touch upon it. And whether you like it or not, I'm going to. What are some celebrity stories? I know you've told me a few, and if you don't give me interesting ones, I'll just force you to give me the ones that I know.
Celebrity stories?
Well, working with actors. You've worked with famous directors. You've worked with famous actors. You worked on Twilight, which was crazy.
It's true. What's funny about celebrity stories is you can tell them, and then if that celebrity ever heard them, it would be pretty hilarious. Like, I wonder if they would remember it, you know?
I feel like it's hard to be a celebrity because you
it
have
would
one
be.
bad day, and especially on a set where you might not be getting along with the director, or you're having a shitty day and now you have to do this scene that demands a lot of you, and then everybody around you is observing your bad behavior, and then that's all they remember.
Exactly.
Which sucks.
Yeah.
But you're also a millionaire, so the empathy is
So
limited.
suck it up.
Yeah, so it's
because lots of us go, oh, you have to come out of your trailer like and act for 5 minutes. Well, we've been out here for 3 hours setting up this shot. Mm-hmm. Like, and then you're out in the rain for like 30 seconds and you're like crying for your umbrella and your warm up coat and stuff. So,
And do you see a lot of that though?
I do see a lot of that from B-list actors.
Yeah, you kind of say that. The A-list is...
Never A-list.
And I have friends that worked on A-list films, and people like Matt Damon and stuff are absolute gentlemen.
Yes.
Like, they're lovely, gracious human beings.
Yes, I have many friends that worked on Elysium, and they, of course, like, I've never heard anything bad about Matt Damon.
He remembered everybody's name on set. He would come to set and know all the crew's names, like they were in awe.
Yeah.
And of course, Kevin Smith is infamous. I mean, working on Supergirl, so many people in the city have worked with him. He is insanely loving and generous and kind, and brings Timbits to set. And
well, he did pre-heart attack.
He did pre-heart attack. That's true.
Bring Timbits now.
Now it's broccoli bites. But he's amazing, right? And he was one of the people I remember that would stop a scene at the end and say, "You guys, we're working in a spaceship right now. Like, this is fucking unbelievable. Look around."
It is. Like, yeah. And he's talking to crew members that, he's talking to people that have forgotten what they're doing, right? Lots of people you get in the groove, you show up, and he just says, like, remember what we're doing. Like, we're working in a spaceship, making a TV show about aliens attacking the Earth. Like, we could be working at, well, I don't want to insult somebody by saying a job, but you know what I mean? Like, you could be not doing this.
And it is a grind, so I get you're worn down. It's like being a parent. You're worn down, and people are like, treat every day like it's magical. You're not going to have these one day. And you're like, I know, but it's Tuesday at 2 p.m. and my kid puked all night and I'm so tired, and now he doesn't want to eat anything that I'm offering him up. I'm not seeing the magic right now. I understand there's magic. I think it's kind of similar, right?
Of course it is.
It's a grind.
It's still good to hear that. It's still good to read those memes about being a parent and stuff, right? Because you do get reminded that, your life is pretty good.
Yeah.
And that's the same in film. You show up to something different every day.
So what are some of your celebrity encounters on set? And I know, just for the record, I'm dragging these out of Tony Durke because I know that he has some, and it's easier to do it to my husband, and I want them for my content.
Oh, my goodness.
But, like, give me a couple. You've got, what about your cigarette story? That's a good one.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
The Baldwin.
Yeah, okay.
Story.
It's a pretty famous story. I've had people come out to me, like, years later and say, man, that was so cool. Like, people that were there and saw it.
So tell everybody what happened.
But anyways, in 2001, I worked on a film as a PA, van driver PA, which is a van driving production assistant. That's a special job where every locations department has a van, and inside the van you carry around cones, garbage cans, garbage bags, brooms, mops, all the things signs, all those things that make a location work for the rest of the crew, right? So I had that as a job. As
an aside to that, many jobs in film, you could be a serial killer and nobody would know.
Right.
Because you've come home with zap straps, like I said, black tape, you're gone all night, you have the van.
Yeah.
It's very Dexter.
It is.
And you're gone for hours at a time. You really could be anywhere, always at a cell reception. Or you're murdering people.
Whatever.
But carry on.
So we were shooting down at Ajutan Studios for weeks. It was our main set. And Stephen Baldwin was the star of the movie. I won't name the movie. I don't even know if it got released because, funny enough, another aside, the movie was called Green Male, and it was about an eco-terrorist who was bombing. And then shortly after, like right after that movie was done, 9/11 happened. And I heard that they never released it because of that. But anyways, it's probably come out on video since.
Somebody look it up and let us know.
Yeah, well, yeah, somebody look it up. I don't know. IMDb it. Anyways, so Baldwin was... he was kind of a weird guy, to be honest. Like
no.
He was.
Which Baldwin are we talking about?
Oh, Stephen.
Okay, because we should specify about weird Baldwins. There's quite a few.
It's true. But he is obviously the weirdest one. But he was a smoker at the time, but I feel like he was like in denial of being a smoker. Like he was just like not buying them essentially. And I was a smoker back then, so I was always smoking outside the door or whatever, and had smokes on me. So he'd always come out of like after acting or finishing a scene or whatever. He'd come out and be like, and well, it started out with him being like, "Hey man, can I borrow a cigarette?" And like 2 weeks later, it was just like literally he would come out of the door and be like talking to other people and would like literally just look at me and put his hand out, like give me give me a smoke without even saying give me a smoke. And it just became this thing where I started.
Now you're a cigarette assistant.
It started to anger me because I'm like a PA. I'm the lowest paid person on set. I'm basically getting minimum wage. And anyway, so eventually after a while, I was just in a particularly bad mood one day, and he came out and he was talking to his assistant or whatever, and he just did that. He just put his hand down and just said, "Hey man, you're the millionaire actor. I'm the PA here. Like, why don't you get your own smokes?" And he just looked at me like incredulously, like, but there was also like quite a few other people standing around, right? And so everyone just no one said anything. And then he just like put his arm around me and he's like, "I like this guy," which is, like alpha actor speak for like, this guy just schooled me.
Yeah. I would punch you in the face, but I can't.
Probably.
So you're my friend now.
Yeah. Something like that. Anyways, it was pretty funny, and a lot of other crew members saw it and they thought it was really great. I thought it was really funny.
Maybe that's why he quit. Wouldn't that be good?
Yeah.
He quit smoking because of that encounter.
Yeah.
I saw him shopping at Century 21 in New York City once.
Did you?
I would have gone up and said something to him, but it just wasn't an opportune time.
Oh, I see.
I also like the story about William H. Macy playing ukulele on set.
Oh, yeah. Oh, right. Yeah.
He directed.
Oh, I love how you're pulling these out of me. So good.
I have so many.
Oh,
I have so many.
He is such a lovely man. It's crazy. But I think people kind of always, I feel like I always assume that about him anyway, although I have assumed that about other people and then met them and then thought, obviously, the opposite.
Your POS.
Yeah, exactly. But yes,
Which
Mr.
is heartbreaking,
Macy
actually,
is
isn't
amazing.
it? It's heartbreaking.
I worked almost on the whole movie, The Layover, which he directed. I think it was maybe even his directorial debut. So I worked on that movie, and that's where I learned, which I didn't even know about him, that he is basically a virtuoso ukulele player. And all day on set, he has his little ukulele. He has it at his video village in his chair, or he walks around set giving actors, advice and stuff the whole time playing this ukulele. Just amazing.
And you guys jammed at the end, didn't you?
Yeah,
because you play guitar.
He would. Yeah, I mean, there would be lunchtime jams. It was a very musical crew, actually. All the camera guys, or a few of them, and a couple of the grips, and me, and we would sometimes at lunch we would jam, and he would jam too. Like he would bring out the ukulele and jam, and So I'm just thinking, that's another one of those times where you have, you look at yourself or you look at what you're doing and.
Pinch yourself.
Yeah, and pinch yourself, to be, cliche.
That's amazing, though.
Yeah.
I can't think of any others unless you can, right off the top of your head of celebs.
Well, there is the story on the movie Vendetta of me jumping through the shot.
I love this. I forgot. This was a film with
Dean Cain.
Dean Cain, who's a lovely guy, is he not?
Yeah,
he's
really
a lovely
is.
guy. He shoots here a lot.
Yeah.
Lovely guy. He was Superman.
Yeah, he has a recurring role on Supergirl as well now.
Oh.
Or he did. Maybe he's not on there now, but he was.
And so you guys were shooting at Riverview, which is a now closed mental institution in Coquitlam, British Columbia.
And you'll definitely, audience, be hearing more about Riverview for sure, because you cannot talk about Vancouver film and not talk about Riverview.
Notorious location. I might do some notorious locations.
Yes.
And that's top of my list, because some people feel like it's haunted. There's all kinds of creepy stories. It has a bit of a sordid past, etc. So you're shooting Vendetta.
Yeah. Yes, we were shooting Vendetta, yes.
High cinema.
High. Oh, no. Actually, you know what? Did you just say it wasn't actually at Riverview? It didn't take place at Riverview.
Wasn't there a jail? Wasn't it?
Yeah, but that actual story didn't take place at Riverview.
Oh, okay, fine. Carry on. Ignore that it's at the wrong place, but the story's still good.
Yeah. Anyway, it's
That's
at a
what I get
battery
for
factory.
interrupting you.
It's at an it's at an old battery factory in Maple Ridge.
Just like our marriage, I interrupt you, and then you're like, actually, that's wrong. And I was like, oh, okay, we'll just keep going. And you're like, God damn it, one more year. Get through one more year.
But anyways, the movie Vendetta, it also starred that the big wrestler whose name escapes me.
Yeah, I looked him up. It's not Andre the Giant, but it's
No, it's he. But he is a massive, massive man. I believe his name is Big Show. That is his name.
Big Show.
Big Show.
Okay.
So this man is massive. If you do not know who he is, look him up, and it will make the story better because you'll be mind blown.
You'll have faces to the names, yeah.
Big Show was some kind of, as I always follow along with the script so closely, I don't know what his character was. But anyways, in the movie, in this scene, he was on a bridge, like a bridge inside of a big factory. And it was his death scene where Dean Cain was shooting at him with like a machine gun. And he was shooting back at Dean Cain, but in the ensuing, he took a bunch of bullets and was shot to death. And I didn't know they were rolling. I didn't know what was going on. But my boss just yelled in the radio, "Can someone please make it across the bridge just to turn out this light or something like this?" So I said, "Copy that," and headed out. I went running across that bridge, and just at that moment, I saw a Big Show getting shot at by the effects guys who use these little things called Zerks or Zorts or Zerks, I think. And they're like a paintball gun with like they cause sparks to fly when it hits metal. So it looks like someone's shooting at you with a real gun and they're ricocheting and all that. And at the same time, Dean Cain's shooting at him with a machine gun full of blanks. But I didn't realize this until I was literally almost running into Big Show. And so there's like, Zerks ricocheting off the bridge and Dean Cain shooting. And then Big Show's like in his death scene and he's falling down. Like he's getting shot and falling down. But just as he's falling down, he just kind of like looks over and sees a lamp me come flying through the air, like over top of him as he's falling down in his death scene. And nobody stopped what they were doing. He continued the death scene. He probably thought like weird, but
utter confusion.
Okay. Yeah. And like Dean Cain kept shooting. They were blank, so that's fine. And then the next thing I see is half of the film crew on the other side of the bridge, including the first AD and second AD, just with the most like incredulous looks on their faces, like, "What have you done?" Like they looked at me as if I had just killed a baby. Like I'm not kidding. They looked so irate and just like incredulous that I would do such a thing. But I didn't even know that they were filming.
You were trying to move a light.
I was trying to move a light.
Head down.
Yeah, head down, baby. And that's what can happen. Tunnel vision. Anyway, what a story. And it doesn't end there. As an epilogue, the next morning, Big Show came up to me and he said, "Wow, that was pretty crazy yesterday, man. What happened there?" And I kind of, I told him the abridged version of the story, and he laughed and laughed. He thought it was the funniest thing in the world. And then he said, "Yeah, you want to thumb wrestle?" Because he knows his hand is like about 4 times the size of mine. And I said, "Yeah, sure." And then we reached out and had a thumb wrestle, and it was like 1, 2, 3, 4. I declare a thumb war, and then he just went, squeezed my hand,
broke your
and
fist.
I lost, and that was it. That he was just like, gave me a hug, and that was it. But it was amazing.
I love it.
Yeah.
You've been in the way a few times. I remember you did some other shoot, and Aaron Paul was trying to do a scene. You were like crouched behind him and trying to do what you do because you're basically you are in tunnel vision. It's very stressful on set, and when you have to do something on set and there's actors involved and they're waiting, time is money.
Yeah, like a hero light. They call it a hero light, and it just means like it's. You may have to walk with the actor as they're walking and talking or something because they say they have to walk a long way and they're not lit by enough light. So you actually put a light on a pole and walk in front of them as they're doing a scene. And that, that can be stressful. Like for a veteran, for a new person. I almost feel like a new person, it's not as stressful because I don't know like
what's at stake.
Yeah, they almost don't know the gravity of it. You know what I mean?
Well, some people don't like working on set. It's
don't
too
at
stressful
all. Yeah, I've
them.
seen people just fall apart. Like people that work in prep jobs, like lots of set decorating
rigging.
And lots of rigging and stuff. They never go near set. And I've seen people just fall apart near set, like literally just run away.
But it can be a nice change of pace from being, so for example, if people don't understand what we're talking about, on a TV show like Supernatural, they have massive sound stages with sets that they've built. And often you can be there for days and no one's shooting anything. You're just setting up, painting.
Yeah.
You're not painting, but building the sets, wiring the sets. You might never see an actor for days and days and days.
Yes.
But when you're on set, it's go time all the time. And they get you to do things, and then they stand and wait while you have to do it.
That's right.
Everyone stops and looks at you and says, "Can you fix that light?" and your heart's just pounding. But I imagine it's kind of a rush too. I would
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, for
Nice
sure.
mix, right?
Yeah.
Well, we're running out of time, and by running out of time, I just mean we don't want this to go too long and bore people to death. I always think of Russell Brand when he was on a show once and they said, well, we've run out of time. And he said, no, you have not run out of time. Time is infinite. Time is never ending. So that's just a little sidebar.
Nice.
I just wanted your final thoughts on kind of the Vancouver film industry, where it's going, how you've seen changes, because you've been at it now for what? How many years? 15?
Longer than that.
We're getting old.
Well, I mean, I consider my film school film too. I worked a bit, like took days off school even when I was still in school to work in film and
Right.
TV in Victoria. So that was 99, so 20 years.
So you've touched on some things, like obviously the way some trends have changed with eating and what you can get away with, and sort of that
the Me Too movement,
the Mad Men
of late.
style, the Mad Men style of drinking and excess is kind of gone mostly. But how do you feel? I mean, you've noted even now in 2018 and 2019 the prevalence of female directors and things that maybe weren't as common before are really becoming more prevalent.
Yes.
In a good way, of course.
Yes, for sure, in a good way. Unless you're a man with something to hide.
I love
but
that.
it's really cool, you know. That pretty much feels like it changed overnight, which is good because I think everyone realized I don't know how it went on for so long.
Well, like
You know what I
lots
mean?
of
Like, it just
industries,
went
it
on
was
for
male
so
dominated,
long,
right?
And then just suddenly just blew open with the Weinstein thing, and it's just it's never going to go back. Like it will never go back. And as I note on the show I work on, Supergirl, right now, they've made some immense changes there. Like I've seen some great like women directors come in there, some newer directors, some newer writers, like.
And even women in lighting, which was never common.
Oh, exactly. It was like 10 years ago, women in lighting was like so rare. And it's changed so much now.
Yeah, you have a couple right on your close-knit team now on
Yes.
Supergirl, which is awesome.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's wonderful. So I mean, in that aspect, yes, it's modernized so much, you know, and that's even in a really short time, with bringing women into key positions.
And how do you feel kind of about, I know a few years ago there was the whole Save BC film, hashtag Save BC film, and there was a little bit of a lapse in work, of course, and concerns. You know, you can have feast or famine in film and TV. You never know when someone's going to pull, a show gets canceled, or they would have the one they pulled out and went back to the States to do. And a lot of stuff has moved to Georgia.
Yes.
And southern United States, not just California.
Yeah,
and
so
New
that's
York.
states making huge concessions in their tax system to try and lure producers to go shoot there instead of actually leaving the country. They call it runaway productions that come to Canada. They come here because right now they have a 30% gain on the exchange.
Insane.
BC government gives them a 28% cut on tax for labor, so they don't pay any tax on it. They pay 5% tax on labor or something. And we just make way less an hour. So it's really...
It's a free-for-all.
It's really a good opportunity for a lot of producers to come here.
It's hard to say no to.
It is.
And there's varying, landscapes. I know a lot of stuff in Alberta, which has seemed to be increasing. Or maybe it's always been that way, but, not everybody wants mountains and rain.
No.
But
big movies tend to go to Alberta. That's what I'm noticing. Big ticket features like Interstellar, Revenant.
Revenant moved to Alberta and did some stuff there, too.
Oh, they did most of, I would say only 10% probably shot in BC. I'd say 90%.
I think it's because they ran out of people to work on it in British Columbia. So they had to go to a new province.
Yeah. No, Alberta's pretty sweet, and it's got some beauty over there. Like, definitely.
So do you worry for the industry here? You think it's just going to get better and better or sustain? Or what are your personal thoughts? They're just personal thoughts.
Personal thoughts.
Deep personal thoughts by Tony Durke.
Well, I mean, I think that it's going to stay exact. I mean, it's going to either grow or it'll probably stay the same.
It's definitely more competitive now, would you not say, with like more people want to get into film now?
Yes, it's exactly
and they've
true.
capitalized on more of the training. So,
as they should.
Yeah,
Because,
totally.
I mean, they send out surveys in the union, and people just keep overwhelmingly, the members say, like, we need to start training young members because, we've got like so many new members, and so many of them just have no training.
Well, yeah, because
the
there's not
industry's
enough people.
grown, well, it's grown so fast, right? And so you have there's a lot of people in these positions that they just don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, because some things require a lot of training and then others don't. You can kind of sidestep your way in a little bit, right?
Yeah, or you just get lucky, or you're right.
Or you're
right?
a permittee, which is sort of, what's a permittee? It's like someone who's not fully a fledged union member, but sort of like on the if we're totally desperate list kind of thing.
That's right, yeah.
And then if you show up enough for that and get enough hours, you can actually get in the union.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay. Well, thank you very much for taking the time out of your busy day, Christmas vacation, to help your lovely wife have an episode, the first episode.
Yes, you bet.
Did you have a good time?
I had a great time.
Were you afraid?
I was not afraid.
You're not afraid of me anyway.
Well, I am a little bit, as every man should be, have a little fear of his own wife. But also, we're recording this, so I'm safe.
It's true. Anything can come out in post. Last question. What's the best meal you've ever had on set?
Oh, interesting.
It doesn't have to be the best meal, but it was the best to you.
Wow. Do you know, I would actually, there's a couple. First off, I will say, one night we were shooting on the X-Files and the grilled cheese truck came. Cindy's grilled cheese truck. And it was
Maybe
amazing.
it was the Revenant grilled cheese.
What?
It might have been the Revenant grilled cheese that Leonardo loved so much.
Yeah, no, it was your brother's friend,
Cindy Hamilton.
Yeah,
a legend in the city.
Yeah, as crafty.
A class act.
She has anyways, so she came one night at like 2 a.m. or something, and it was rain. Anyways, it was incredible.
That's when grilled cheese tastes the best.
And with the beautiful, thick Texas toast grilled cheese came a whole beautiful pickle.
Oh, man.
And I was just so happy. And I'll never forget, it was just so good.
Yeah. Comfort.
But our little Christmas meal we just had on Supergirl before we came, before we had the time off, was unbelievable. And that was truffles, fine foods.
They did a full spread. Seafood.
They did. Yes, they had everything, much of which I don't actually eat, but it was nice to look at. And the stuff that I did eat was just incredible. So,
what about craziest weather? Any moments stand out? I mean, we talked about some weather already, but it was indoor weather with sprinklers.
Right, that was indoor weather.
Man-made weather.
How you say that, yeah, that's true. Some weather, yeah. I mean, actually, I don't want to talk about that.
Why?
Because it's dangerous.
Why? Now I'm intrigued.
Well, just the other night, I had to come down in the lift because I felt the biggest burst of wind that I'd ever felt in a lift in 12 years.
That's insane.
And
Yeah,
so
we had a windstorm here in Vancouver.
We had a big windstorm the other night, and I wasn't even what they call full stick, which means all the way up. I was still going up at the time, and a huge gust of wind came so hard and pushed me, like it literally pushed me up against the control panel, and I went on the radio and said, "I'm coming down."
I hate these stories. That's why you don't tell me these, because I lose my shit when I find out.
And so it was, so I came down and didn't go back up for the whole rest of the night and spent the rest of the night on the ground. So that's a pretty nasty wind story. It's always wind. Wind is the killer. It always is. It blows our tents around. It's just, it's you can film in anything else, but when the wind gets high enough, you're getting into trouble.
Where's one of your favorite locations to shoot in the city? Do you have any favorites?
That's neat. These questions are good.
Well, I try.
I like shooting at UBC. Other than that, it's quite hard to get there from where I live. It's on the far side of the city, but I do love shooting there. And I believe it's part of me is just the fact that I never went to university, and I think that being on a campus makes me, I don't know, like hearken for something I never had or something, or maybe, But I also just really love UBC.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's a beautiful campus, and I don't know, I just always really like shooting there.
Any last words of wisdom for anybody wanting to get into film? You've had a lot of people ask. People come from other countries, young people that we know, relatives have moved to Vancouver and moved back and that kind of thing. Do you have any last pieces of advice?
Yes. When you're standing at the crafty table and it's 8 p.m. and you ask yourself, do I really need this 17th cup of coffee? Don't have the coffee. Listen to your inner voice.
That's good. Thank you, Tony Durke.
Thank you, Colby Spencer.
For joining us. You might be back. We'll see. I might do some segments and I'll invite you back because you do have a plethora of film knowledge generally.
I do, yes.
You're a bit of a film buff, a known film buff. And,
Known.
Well, around your small circle of friends and family. But I feel like we could just chat about film,
Oh, for sure.
you know?
We could just chat. Like, we could just talk about, like, our marriage and stuff, too. Like,
We could.
if you want.
That might be
We won't
boring
air it.
for
Okay.
most people.
Okay.
I don't know if they'd be that interested in it, but maybe that's a different podcast.
It might be.
We're going to edit this part out. It doesn't matter.